Hello, everybody. Welcome to the panel discussion, Building Resilient Infrastructure and Fostering Innovation for Transforming India. As we know, infrastructure sector is a key driver for the economy of any nation. The sector is highly responsible for propelling India's overall development. According to the Department of the Promotion of Industry and Trade, Internal Trade, foreign direct investments in the construction development and construction infrastructure activities stood at nearly $26 billion and $24 billion respectively between April 2020 and December. In current financial year, infrastructure activities accounted for 13% share of the total FDI inflows of US $82 billion. What is road ahead for the nation? India plans to spend nearly 1.4 trillion on infrastructure during 2019 to 2023 to have a sustainable development of the country. India and Japan have joined hands for the infrastructure development in India's northeast states and are also setting up an Indo-Japan coordination forum for development of northeast to undertake strategic infrastructure projects for the region. To lead the panel discussion today, I'm joined by eminent administrators, Mr. CJ Venugopal, IAS, Additional Chief Secretary, Board of Revenue, Government of Odisha, Mr. Nitin R. Gokarn, IAS, Principal Secretary, Department of Public Works, Government of Uttar Pradesh, Mr. Amit Kumar Ghosh, IAS, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Road, Transport and Highways, Government of India, Mr. Ajitabh Sharma, IAS, Chairman and Managing Director of Jaipur Metro Rail Corporation Limited, Mr. G.S. Naveen Kumar, IAS, Special Commissioner, Department of Rural Development from Government of Andhra Pradesh, Mr. Akhilesh Srivastava, Global Mobility and Highway Expert from India, Mr. Mayank Chaturvedi, Country Manager for Public Sector Sales, Hewlett Packard Enterprise India, and last but not the least is Mr. Sanjay Bhutani, Senior Vice President, AdaniConnex. Gentlemen, welcome to the panel discussion. My first question to Mr. CJ Venugopal, your initial remarks on the ongoing infrastructure development activities in Odisha state, if you can briefly.
In Odisha, as you know, our Honorable Chief Minister has been giving a lot of emphasis on infrastructure development. And Odisha is considered to be one of the developing states now. A lot of emphasis is being given on infrastructure development. Our emphasis is on improving the road connectivity to some of the most interior parts of the state. And a huge road grid network is being developed. And we have covered villages of having population of up to 250 people. Now we are going to up to 125, having blacktop. So these are villages with a population of 250 and 125 having blacktop roads. We have a number of villages like that. So ours is also a tribal-dominated state where there are a lot of hamlets which have very small population of sometimes less than 50 also. So we are also in a phased manner reaching them also through a blacktop road. But right now, we have reached almost 125 population. Every village in the state has a blacktop road and a kacha road to all the hamlets also. We are also laying a lot of emphasis on construction of bridges. Since we have a huge hilly terrain, we have a special program called the Biju Setu Yojana, where we have identified a number of bridges in the most interior pockets. And every year, we construct few hundreds of bridges. These are all in rural areas, and this has enabled the citizens to be part of the mainstream. And because of this, all the administrative work, like the BDOs, tehsildars, they're all able to reach. So also the economic activities, the market is able to reach. The ambulance, then the health services, so also the public distribution system. This has had a tremendous impact. And in addition to this, at the mega scale, we are doing the Biju Express Highway. We are also doing a lot of economic corridors, which are connecting the major ports and also major economic activities. And we expect that this will give a big boost to the various economic activities that are taking place in those areas. In addition to this, they've been laying a lot of emphasis on development of electrical infrastructure in the state. I used to be also CMD of Gridco and OPDCL, looking after the entire electrical infrastructure for development. We have a substation, a 132 by 33 kV substation in almost every 30 kilometers radius of the state, which is right now on a linear, now gone into a ring, now we are on a mesh. So that's a kind of architecture that we have designed, and a very strong electrical infrastructure in the state, because of which we are able to provide electricity to every household, in every village and hamlet of the state. This is a achievement for us, and it has a tremendous impact in the rural areas.
Okay.
Now improving the quality of power, and we are addressing the other issues relating to improving the quality of power. In addition to this, our emphasis is now also on water supply. We have started an ambitious program over 10 years back, where earlier we used to have tube wells. So from tube wells, now we have shifted to pipe water supply scheme, which was in single villages. This was also again initiated when I was Principal Secretary, Rural Development and Rural Water Supply Scheme. So both the road connectivity and the Biju Setu Yojana, which is for the bridges, were initiated during that time, and also the rural water supply and sanitation. So the water grid now is under implementation. Almost half the state, the programs have already been implemented, where the urban areas and rural areas are getting the water. We are hopeful that in the next couple of years, every household would have assured the water supply through a pipe water supply scheme. And these are all mega schemes, and they're doing extremely well. So in addition to these schemes which I mentioned to you, we are also focusing on the fiber grid. So we have the road grid, we have the water grid, we have the electricity grid. Now we are working on the fiber grid.
Okay.
Fiber grid is, we are trying to reach out to every village. And again, I've been fortunate enough to be part of, as Principal Secretary Electronics and IT, I was heading the fiber grid. So we have had the opportunity to extend the towers to be done in different villages, and also fiberization of the towers.
Okay. Okay.
To improve the connectivity and to ensure digital outreach in the state, and we've been quite successful in that also.
Okay.
In addition to this basic infrastructure, which I was mentioning to you, we are now also simultaneously working on improving the health infrastructure. That has been, we are constructing a lot of medical colleges, number of hospitals in almost every district. We are having huge infrastructure on health, and our Honorable Chief Minister have been emphasizing on creating a better health infrastructure. And if all of you know, this is coming very handy to us during management. It has been very, very, very useful to us. So infrastructure development has been a thrust, and because of this, we find a huge difference in the economic well-being of the people in interior areas. And we continue to give a lot of emphasis on infrastructure development. And the last mile connectivity is something which we are working on, and the sustainability aspect of it is also something which we are working on.
Over to Mr. Nitin R. Gokarn. Welcome to the panel discussion. Can I have your initial remarks on the ongoing infrastructure development initiatives in Uttar Pradesh state?
Thank you for inviting me here. I'll basically restrict myself to the Public Works Department, that portfolio that I am handling. As you are all aware, the Public Works Department looks after construction of roads and bridges, and also buildings. Those are the three major areas that we work on. And at the moment, our focus is on two or three things in the roads. One is that we've taken the core road network in the entire state and developed additional state highways. Last year, we declared 3,500 kilometers of new state highways. And we are now in the current financial year looking at upgrading them to make them at least 2-lane paved shoulder specification. At the same time, in terms of the rural connectivity, we are looking at connecting 250 plus population villages. As far as the census of 2001 is concerned, we have connected all villages that are 250 plus population. We are now looking at 2011 census. At the beginning of 2017, when the current government came in, there were about 9,700 habitations which had no roads. We have taken about 4,000 of them so far and completed those villages and given them connectivity. In the current financial year, we are looking at taking up all the remaining so that by the time the next census report comes of 2021, we will start up on a clean slate. At the moment, we are doing road construction on an annualized basis of 3,500 kilometers of new roads and 3,300 kilometers of expansion, widening, strengthening of existing roads. So I would say that we are doing about 9 kilometers of road per day, new roads, and about 10 kilometers of roads which are being expanded. And in terms of bridges, we have done almost about 500 plus bridges in the last 3 years. To the extent that most of these bridges were from very earlier period, 10, 15, 20-year-old, which had not been taken up and decisions had not been taken to complete them. And I'm happy to inform that we are now completing one bridge almost every 3 days. That's the kind of speed that we are doing in terms of road infrastructure. Last year, PWD was tasked with taking up building works on an EPC basis. This is for the first time that UPPWD has been given this task. And some of the major important projects, which included medical university, medical colleges, Atal residential schools for labor class children, and also all projects over 50 crores, that has been now given on EPC basis to PWD. And we tendered out roughly around 5,000 crore worth of works last year for EPC buildings. And all works have been started now. And I'm happy to inform that about in the entire process, we've saved about 300 crores of money also upfront, which will not also lead to further escalation in cost because it's on EPC basis. Last year in October, we started the work on something called as Prairie. What we have done is the entire road network of UP has been mapped and a unique ID number has been given to all, irrespective of whether it is owned by PWD or any other department. And that entire grid now is available on our GIS platform called Srishti. So any new road that we look at or any existing road that we look at, we know where it comes in and what its specifications are. And therefore, we are able to do better planning. All our MVs are on electric platform. All our payments are through the Chanakya software. And last year, we started evaluation of technical bids, which was done online. We used to get a lot of complaints that on tendering basis, almost every other day, we would get complaints that there's some problem with respect to interpretation of certain clauses in the bid documents, etc. So for that, we've standardized everything, done it online, and we give 3 days time to the contractors to give their opinions on when the evaluation result is shown to them. And there's a system of a HIPAA committee at the headquarters also looking at it. This has resulted into higher competition, and our value of total money that we've saved through this. Last year, we did about 8,800 crore of tenders through Prairie software. And about 900 crore is the saving that we've done for the government just by this one initiative alone. So I would say that while we are looking at increasing the road network, etc., we are also looking at leveraging technology in order to improve competition, in order to have better delivery systems on ground.
Yes. Over to Mr. Amit Kumar Ghosh. Welcome to the panel discussion. Can I have your initial remarks on the highway infrastructure development initiatives in India? I'm sure your ministry has a very ambitious plans. Can I have your initial remarks, please?
It is a pleasure to be in such august company with Nitin sir and everybody else. Let me first of all extend my gratitude to ET Digital for having invited me to this discussion. As you know, we are in the business of making national highways. And I've spent about I'll be completing 4 years after 5 days in this ministry. So we have actually, we have achieved many things. First thing is that, the pace of construction. In the first 2 months of this financial year, we touched about 36.51 kilometers per day. And we were able to we are still able to maintain a very good pace. And I think this year we will definitely exceed the record that we achieved last year. So this is the first thing that I wanted to say. And the other thing that I want to say is that this year we have already constructed about 3,000 kilometers of highways up to the 31st July. So we hope to achieve the target of 12,000 kilometers of construction this year. But the more important thing that I see is, to my mind, that, we have moved from our earlier style of being a project-based infrastructure development ministry. From there, we graduated to, giving a uniform ride quality experience. If you're driving on a highway somewhere in North India, why should you have a bad experience compared to the beautiful highways in Karnataka and Tamil Nadu? So that, getting that same ride quality experience across to different parts of the country is a very big challenge. And this is our focus. And there's another focus that we have. And this is something that everybody is talking about, which is, large scale development of greenfield corridors. Typically, these are access controlled corridors. And I think that we are moving into the next generation of road infrastructure and driving experience. With, you can have a uniform high speed and you're driving, totally access controlled experience you have. So we feel that these greenfield developments will also unlock hitherto untapped economic potential for the hinterlands in our country. Just now, before this meeting, I was reviewing one of the packages which runs between this new corridor coming between Raipur to Visakhapatnam, and this package is in Odisha, and typically in a very, very backward location. But we were looking also at not only building the access controlled highway over there, but also wayside amenities and other facilities. So this is the kind of shift that I wanted to highlight has taken place. So now the entire highway development that we have is based on, our concept of origin to destination, connecting Raipur to Visakhapatnam, connecting Amritsar to Jamnagar, connecting Delhi to Mumbai, and then through 5 spurs to JNPT, 5 spurs to Jawaharlal Nehru Port Trust alone we are giving. So this is the kind of paradigm shift we have had. And I also think that, one of the words you have given us to think about for this panel discussion is resilience of the infrastructure. This is very, very important for us. We are working with IIT Kharagpur to identify certain stretches which are affected the most due to climatic conditions. Let me give you an example. Recently, we had very heavy rains in Maharashtra in the coastal area. And we had recently built a portion of the National Highway 66, which runs from Mumbai to Goa to Kerala. And in this Panvel to Indapur area, the road has got very badly damaged due to very heavy rains in coastal Maharashtra. So we are looking at these problems, because you build a good road and you give a flexible payment, and then you have a problem. So should we go for the RCC permanent kind of payment over there or not? So these are the things that now we are looking at. So I know that we have a lot of colleagues here that so I'll stop here, and I'm happy to listen to them and learn from them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Over to Mr. Ajitabh Sharma. Welcome to the panel discussion. My questions to you not related to metro, but I just want to have initial remarks on the ongoing reforms in power sector. And do you think the distribution reforms and electricity amendment bill will recharge the India's power sector? Just need your initial remarks on that.
Current revamped distribution sector scheme which the government of India has launched, and as well as simultaneously the draft electricity Act Amendment Bill 2021, which is slated for further detailed discussion in the Parliament. So there are a large number of issues, but I would like to point out only few certain things which I according to my experience and the knowledge, whatever I could gather, feel are very important and should be given due consideration is number one is that in the year 2015, we had Uday scheme for complete revamping of the distribution sector in the country, and different states in different mode and manner signed the agreement with the government of India and the other financial institutions. But down the road, if we look at the progress and performance of the Uday scheme, the outcome of the scheme finally varies, and it falls under a very broad spectrum across the country. Some states did very well, but there were some states, and unfortunately, Rajasthan also falls somewhere in the middle. We were not able to perform or gather the benefit which we could have gathered from the Uday scheme, but in some of the parameters, we did reasonably well and were among the few top states in the country. So what I mean is that whatever scheme is there for revamping of the distribution utility wing in the power sector, the continued sustenance is the most important thing. Once the scheme is over, say like the current proposed scheme, when it gets over in the year 2025, so the DISCOM should be completely clean from the legacy issues in their balance sheet.
Okay.
Few good things which are there in this scheme, and there are few downsides also. So I think because of the paucity of time, I would straight go to the weak points which are there in the scheme. And as what I would have liked, and the grassroots field functionaries of the energy department would have liked, is that we are completely missing the point of a very strong focus on the renewable energy sector, because the renewable energy sector, it is going to come in a big way. And what the finally, as per the latest assessment report number 6 released by IPCC few days ago, now the India is under the global pressure of coming out with very strong and hard nationally determined commitments for carbon emission reduction. So the biggest challenge which is going to be faced by the distribution utilities in the coming future would be the absorption of the renewable energy, the higher penetration of renewable energy into the grids, both at the distribution as well as the transmission level. So I think at certain points, both the new revamped scheme as well as the draft amendment bill is missing out those points. Many states have raised those points to the Ministry of Power and to the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. So like the grants for infrastructure development, which is proposed under this scheme, some quantum of demand should have gone to the distribution sector for upgradation of their infrastructure, for making investment in the ancillary services, which are very desperately needed in the distribution sector to just balance out the issue related to intermittency and variability of the solar and the wind power. So unless that happens, we would reach to a point where the further penetration of renewable energy would become very difficult.
Over to Mr. G.S. Naveen Kumar. Sir, welcome to the panel discussion. We know that Andhra Pradesh government has very ambitious plans for rural development. Can I just get through some of the developments on the ground from you, sir, please?
See, one of the things which we had efficiently done in the last 2 years is that setting up of a concept called Grama Sachivalaya. We call it Gram Secretariats, where for every 2,000 people, I'm talking about people, we have 10 last mile delivery people. One from the Panchayat Secretary itself, the digital assistant. There's also an A&M. There's also education assistant, and there is also a surveyor and also a Mahila police for each of this. So we had set up in Andhra Pradesh, we had set up 15,000 for Grama Sachivalayam and Ward Sachivalayam for each of every 2,000 population. We also have a parallel network called Volunteer Network for every 50 in rural and for every 100 people in households. We have a volunteer network. So what we have done in Andhra Pradesh through the Rural Development Department is we used the Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme funds to create kind of, what we are talking about is a resilient infrastructure. So we have created resilient education infrastructure in terms of, we are going to set up digital libraries. Around 5,000 of them would be there in the field where fiber connectivity would be there. And this fiber would help us, connect digitally all the students across the state. So we call it digital library. And one of the other things which we have done is we actually had made this Grama Vada Sachivalayam building also, where 10 functionaries would be available for the public at their own village. They don't even have to, go beyond 2 kilometers of, to get any service for that matter. Even they wanted a rice card or a pension card and everything. In fact, in Andhra Pradesh, the pension is door delivered through a biometric device. So that's how it happens here. And one more infrastructure which we have created is YSR health clinics. So this is also coming across the state using the EGS scheme. So this is also one of those things which we have done efficiently. And the third and after this would be Raitu Bharosa Kendra, which is only agriculture extension center, where the person would get all his agriculture need and also the advice. So there is an engineering graduate who is posted there and who could help guide the farmer in his needs and also plan a good seed for his agriculture. And the last one is bulk milk chilling units, which we call BMCUs and also AMCUs. So there are 9,000 of them would come up in all the rural areas where we would also procure milk. Andhra is one of those states which is dependent on agriculture and also dairy development big time, other than the ports and all. So this is one of the things which we are efficiently doing it for using the employment guarantee scheme. So you must be knowing there's a labor budget, there's also a material budget. Yes. So what we do is we track it to the last mile so that we don't even want 1 rupee of the money to be lost. So we track it. So I could even say that the entire labor budget for Andhra Pradesh is already exhausted. So you can imagine it's hardly been 4 months since the financial year started. So we've exhausted it. So we are asking for a revision of our own labor budget so that we can do more works. So that's how we have been doing it in the past. One of the other things which we are currently taking up from day after is the plantation drive. So with the help of the roadways department, NH, we are able to do, replanting of, trees. And also we have developed, one of the things which Andhra is very good is last mile tracking. Like we also had put a survival app to find out whether the tree is growing. So we are also thinking of using drones to, understand whether drones to find out whether the survival, because physically inspecting to 1 crore plantation is very difficult. So sending teams and all that thing would differ. They might probably put one picture and say, okay, the tree is growing, but there would be. So we are looking at higher survival rate, more than 85% of survival rate. So that is one of the things which we are looking at. So we would also use AI. So we had last week, we had a discussion with the national highways. So they are also ready to, cooperate with us and talk to us. So we are also training those, the horticulture specialists, which the National Highways Department had put. I think we have 27 of them across Andhra Pradesh. So we are also training up. So there's a lot of convergence which is happening with the central government and the state government, so that, like Sir had said, Amit Sir had said, he said the green corridors, we want it to be the greenest corridors, right? So when you see it, it should reflect more like an autobahn where you travel on a highway. It should look like the autobahn with full green, so that it also makes sense, because when you travel on a green highway, your fatigue goes down. So that's one of the reasons it has to be green in the long run. So we are also working on it. So these are two things which I thought I'll
sure.
mention in the initial remarks. So as it goes, we can talk more. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And over to Mr. Akhilesh Srivastava. Welcome to panel discussion. I mean, many projects, many visions, many ambitions on the ground. As an expert, how do you see the infrastructure development in general? If you can speak briefly, please, sir.
Infrastructure is the key driver. The multiplier effect of infrastructure is so high that if you spend 1% of GDP in infrastructure, the growth is roughly 2.2%. So it has a big multiplier on that. And fortunately, Government of India and all the panelists were discussing, a lot of sincere effort are being put into infrastructure development too, be it the national highway construction under the MOR, the state highways are being constructed, power and others.
Over to Mr. Mayank Chaturvedi. Welcome to the panel discussion, sir. HPE is part of India's smart city mission, contributing to India's growth trajectory. How do you see the role of emerging technologies in infrastructure sector, as we just witnessed positive project initiatives by across the state governments in our panel discussion. Can you just share your insights, please?
Thanks, Radhaji. First of all, thanks ET team for inviting me in this panel. And it's my privilege to be a part of this panel discussion along with so many eminent panelists. Yes, Radha, I think you said it right. HP today is involved in building more than 45 smart cities. And happy to inform that in 10 out of these 45 projects, we are the master system integrators, the MSI as we call it. And you know, the backbone of any smart city is the digital ecosystem. And one of the main characteristics of a digital ecosystem is to dynamically adapt as per the changing demands of the applications. Because that applications are the one which drive that entire ecosystem. And applications can be known legacy applications, it could be known cloud applications, but most importantly, in unknown mobile apps. And a typical smart city, the digital ecosystem will get the resource allocation request from all these types of applications. And there could be huge spikes of IT resources requirement at times, which are difficult to predict. And it becomes so very important to have the headroom for accommodating such requests, failing which the entire digital ecosystem will crash, thereby leading to unavailability of the citizen services. So how do we ensure that we build a robust, adaptable, and a reliable digital ecosystem? Let me take you through this journey. This will also answer your question of what role emerging technologies play in building a digital workplace or a smart city. Actually, the digital journey begins right from designing and building the data center. And there is a lot which goes in the data center design. And for designing the data center, we were supposed to bring efficiencies on the aspects of power, cooling, energy saving, space utilization, and so on and so forth. And for achieving this, we did the energy analysis, PUE analysis, probabilistic reliability analysis of structural systems, computational fluid dynamics for cooling efficiencies, efficient designing of electrical and mechanical parts of the DC building, 3D layout. Many of those analyses were done. All these analysis were done using some of the latest technological tools to ensure that the intended efficiencies are built in the design. But more importantly, to ensure that the data center is aligned with the end vision of making the environment digital. After data center, the next block, which was important, was the infrastructure. Not the infrastructure which my eminent panelists have said. I'm talking about the IT infrastructure. And the infrastructure layer was supposed to be designed for dynamically allocating and deallocating IT resources. A very important requirement for a digital ecosystem. We had used the technologies which had the features of dynamically aligning with the changing demands of workloads, whether it was compute or storage or networking, security, user access tools, IT service management tools, governance or location-based services. All of them had the capabilities of AI/ML to ensure the reliability, resiliency, and adaptability needed for a digital ecosystem. The third block, which was the most critical out of the three blocks of digital ecosystem, is the platform. And what I mean by platform is that which is the link between the application and the infrastructure, what you're using, the IT infrastructure. Because if this is not created well, you won't be able to leverage and harness the power of a digital ecosystem. Now, whether it's containers or open source tools for creating APIs with the apps or optimizing the resource allocation to apps, it all happens by creating the right platform. Now, this block actually defines how effective your integrated command control center will be, which is a commonly used word in a typical smart city. And ICCC, as you know, is the nerve center of the smart city. We used our own IPs like Esmeralda Container Platform, Data Fabric, along with a lot of open source tools to build a robust ICCC. And with other software solutions, we were able to bring the required intelligence, automation, security, whatever is needed. So in a nutshell, the data center design and build, infrastructure and platform is the crux of building a dependable ICCC. And as we speak, there would be many new use cases which would come up on the horizon and would need newer applications to be ported on this ecosystem. Adaptability of triple IC and ecosystem below it will define the successful running of these smart cities in the time to come. And HP is continuously working to evolve this ICCC layer so it gets aligned with the changes we are seeing in this government sector.
Thank you, Mr. Mayank. Mr. Sanjay Bhutani, Senior Vice President, AdaniConnex. Welcome to the panel discussion. My first question to you is, AdaniConnex is a 50-50 joint venture between Adani Enterprise and EdgeConneX is aimed at developing and operating data centers through India, leveraging the two partners' complementary expertise and capabilities. What are your priorities for India in infrastructure? If you can briefly share, please.
Thank you. It's great to be part of such a great initiative and a panel. So I'll begin with very positive comments about our nation. I think clearly we are very unique nation, very young nation. 35% of our population is ranging between 25 to 35. The kind of transformation we've seen by this young generation, it is mind-blowing. And the kind of adoption happening on a digital side, it is changing the world, it is changing the way we demonstrate things. Government initiatives are also very key to this change. We see Digital India, we see Atmanirbhar, we see Make in India, Smart Cities, Safe Cities. These kind of initiatives are helping India to grow faster. And government vision is something which is very important. Digital first nation having transparent ecosystem and citizen participating in technology is important. And this is actually two parts to this. One is obviously enterprises adopting digital part, and retail part is also important. In last 6-7 years, if we look at the data transformation which has happened in India, people were using 2 GB per month versus now 18 GB per month. Likewise, AI, ML, IoT adoption is also happening at a rapid pace. Ultimately, everything needs data center. Everything has to be stored. So all these things are helping us to create more and more agile infrastructure. And people have started believing in a infrastructure which is getting built, coupled with lot of sustainability initiatives, which are important to the nation. I think clearly Digital India needs, along with the sustainability, these initiatives, rest of the world is actually watching us. So data centers are twofold. One is obviously hyperscaler, and the second one is edge data centers. So hyperscalers are driving the growth. Currently, the data center capacity is at about 450 megawatt, and it is going to grow at about 25% CAGR. Along with this, we know government is working on a policy which is very important. The law is very important, which is localization, and which will help further this industry to grow at a faster pace. So these things are important. At the same time, the ecosystem which is helping the data center to grow is about creating a network infrastructure. The cables which are coming from outside to India, currently they land in 2 cities only, which are Mumbai and Chennai. And the diversification is very important. So we, from our AdaniConnex perspective, we are working to unlock that as well. We are creating data center parks across large and big cities. And we are creating a edge infrastructure in tier 2 and tier 3 towns. Why tier 2, tier 3 towns? Because we have to be close to customer for edge infrastructure. So Adani Group's DNA has been in terms of creating a large infrastructure, which is very, very different infrastructure with a great speed and a quality, which is important for our customers. And this capacity is something which is the kind of capacity creation which we're going to do is 1,000 megawatt in next 1 decade. This is the biggest network of data center what we are going to create. It is going to reshape this industry. And on an edge side, we are going to leverage on our Adani Group's infrastructure and the group companies, sister companies, what we have. They have a lot of infrastructure in tier 2 and tier 3 towns, which we can ride on. And along with that, I think clearly the demand itself is going to grow, and which will help us to get newer customers on board. And this will help us to make industry a newer form of doing things. And currently the cloud adoption of India is at nascent stage. And this nascent stage is 15-20% versus a lot of developed countries are ranging in 60 to 65%. So clearly, this nation has got a lot of leeway in terms of having a large infrastructure coupled with sustainability. On the sustainability side, we are working beyond only on a power side. Sustainability can go multifold. So those kind of initiative is helping industry to reshape, and this will be a very big game changer. And we are very, very excited about be part of this journey.
Over to Mr. Venugopal. Sir, my last question to you. Sir, you are setting up infrastructure grids, electrical, water, and infrastructure. What are your challenges and your top priorities for this current financial year, if you can share briefly?
One of the few observations is that whatever infrastructure that we are creating, from a general man's perspective, it appears is the infrastructure we are creating for the past. We need to create infrastructure for the future. My experience has been you construct a single lane road or a double lane road. By the time the road is completed, you need a 4-lane. So if you do a 4-lane, by the time you complete, you need a 6-lane. So we are constantly work in progress. So that is something where we need to make a proper demand assessment for the future, make the financial allocations accordingly. And if we're able to create that kind of infrastructure, I think a lot of savings would happen to that. The other major issue that we find is the land acquisition. The land-related issues still remain very strong. And that is something we are constantly working with the people and then trying to address those issues. And of course, the forest and environment clearances, which all of us are aware of. And in some of the interior areas, the availability of skilled manpower is also a big challenge. The living conditions are also extremely challenging in some of the interior pockets in the forest areas. So availability of skilled manpower is another issue. But the people who are taking it are addressing these operational issues of the construction work. But the most important thing would be the sustainability of this infrastructure that we are creating. The huge infrastructure, the capex that is being done, what is the OPEX for this and what is the sustainability of this? What is the revenue streams to ensure that such huge infrastructure is properly maintained? I think that is going to be the biggest challenge. And all of us sitting here, we need to find answers to it. There's no specific answer. Every asset would need a different type of challenge. The other thing that we find in a state like Odisha, maybe again, it could be, and I find it in the news in most states, it's something similar. We've had this huge rainfall. We've had floods every year in our state. And now I see it's happening in other states also, very frequent floods. The construction of the roads, how resilient infrastructure it is, how can it cater to this climate change? Do we increase the height of the roads? Do we increase more and more vents to have more water to flow? So these are the design changes which I think the planners, when they are designing the road, should think of. Because this is something which we are facing now. The road has been constructed because the water levels used to be different. But now that the water has come, the height of the roads have gone up, there are not enough vents, and the water gets stagnated. More and more villages are getting inundated. So we need to shift more roads. So each intervention has to be properly planned based on the local requirements. But it has to address the climate changes that is happening. A resilient infrastructure which is adaptable to this is something which has to be taken into consideration at the design stage itself. Our government has been following up on the 5T, and our Chief Minister is very keen on the infrastructure development, and 5T is one of the key mantras to this, where transparency, technology, all these are very key interventions that we're using. We have the e-procurement software where all our tenders are done through a very transparent process. We also follow the EPC mechanism for implementation of all the large projects that we are doing. So use of technology, including project monitoring. We have all the assets that we have created linked on Google Earth, and a lat-long has been given to each asset, and it is properly monitored, and there's a digital register also happening. So use of technology has been very, very intense, and this is basically to enable more transparency and also for faster implementation of the projects. These are some of the thoughts that I will share with all of you.
Thank you very much, sir. Over to Mr. Nitin Gokarn, sir. Sir, you have been adopting technology in Public Works Department. We all know that PWD is the mother of all departments. And what are your challenges in implementing technology and your top priorities for this current financial year? If you can briefly, please, sir.
Couple of things in terms of challenges in the current financial year. Actually, every year on year, our schedule of rates keeps on going up because the cost of construction of roads, the cost of aggregates, diesel, everything keeps going up. So what is it that we can do in order to optimize the costing? Probably UPPWD did one step by bringing in emulsion treated subways, and that is part of the IRC 37 code now. And most of our roads, we have reduced the requirement of aggregates about 20. Because as you are a plane, and we really don't have aggregates available everywhere in terms of stone quarries, and distance and lead and lift is very expensive. So by reduction of the requirement of aggregate itself, the cost of transportation has come down, and also the damage to the environment has also come down. So that is one aspect that we could look at in terms of what all further we need to do to bring down the cost while keeping the same parameters in terms of the outcomes in place. Well, I agree with Sri Venugopal sir when he mentions that our design and our outcomes are two different issues. When I design a road, today my design for a village road specification is for a 2 MSA specification, on which once a new road is laid, it attracts traffic from all across. It need not necessarily be only going to that village, but if there's a through road that is possible, heavier vehicles also pass through that. And the minute that happens, in the next 2-3 months, we see that the road has got damaged. And again, we are back to square one. So these are issues that come up very frequently. And we are looking at and examining how we can improve the crust design, even of village roads where there is through traffic which is possible, not just ending into that particular village. That is a major challenge for us because most of our roads get damaged because of this through traffic issue which comes up. Third aspect that we are looking at is when we are widening our roads, a lot of old trees are cut unnecessarily. One would say because the technology now to pilot projects to transplant trees instead of cutting off those trees, transplanting it elsewhere wherever there's suitable land available. So at least those trees that have life, economic life and the biological life left, they can at least survive instead of giving it complete damage to society. We're also looking at increasing the usage of plastics in our roads. Our target for the current year is 1,500 kilometers of use of plastics. We have brought the use of plastics into our schedule of rates so that it has now become mainstream. And we are increasingly giving more and more projects where use of plastic is being encouraged, especially in urban areas, because single-use plastic has no other usage. Of course, there are issues in terms of availability of the desirable quality of plastics that can be used for plastic roads. And we are trying to address them in conjunction with the local Nagar Nigams. Technology, as has been mentioned, is a very important aspect for monitoring of projects. We have several applications in UPPWD which are looking at in terms of things which are in silos. Our challenge now is to take it to the next level where we take the legacy data and then allow an overall application which kind of talks to all these silos and uses intelligence and it throws up issues for us for better planning and better monitoring. We are looking at the next 3 months to address this particular issue in terms of our own next level usage of technology also. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And over to Mr. Amit Kumar Ghosh. We know that your ministry has been creating world records in construction of highways. Recently, Honorable Minister announced 2 such records also. But what are your challenges on the ground and your top priorities for the current financial year, if you can briefly, sir?
See, our biggest challenge on ground remains the most basic challenge that you encounter when you are trying to do good project execution, good project management. Venugopal sir mentioned it, and Nitin sir also alluded to it. But let me tell you that project management practice in our country needs to be improved further. In fact, the Niti Aayog has constituted a task force, and there is a committee. I represent my ministry on that committee. It is an interministerial committee, and the Quality Council of India is assisting and working with Niti Aayog to improve project management practices in the country. One of my biggest challenges is the quality of DPR that we get for, when we try to appraise the project and seek approval of the competent authority. So at that time, I realized that the quality of DPRs is something that requires a lot of work even today. We have allowed all kinds of sensors and lidar-based technologies, drone-based surveys, etc. We have allowed all kinds of technologies that the options have come to us to be incorporated. From 2018, we have in fact given complete freedom for employment of technology for doing these DPRs. What we have also done is we have given the responsibility to the DPR consultant not only to tell us the alignment of the highway, but also to give us the land acquisition plan, because often we would find that the alignment was one thing and the actual land acquisition on the ground was another. So in 2018, I, along with some senior officers and some consultants, we rewrote the entire RFP for the DPR consultants. But I can share with you that my experience is that I do not see that requisite improvement in the kind of manpower which is being deployed and the kind of, the quality of output. So this remains my biggest challenge. Now, as you said, what are your couple of priorities this year? You see, we do about 1.5 lakh crore of expenditure every year. This year, I'm looking at how we can save, say, about 10 to 15% by employing the best possible practices. Can we have, can we go in the precast direction more and more? Can I reduce the time of EPC projects? We generally give about 2.5 years. Can we reduce it by 10% or 15% and still ask the contractor to deliver? So these are the things, how to save time and how to save financial cost. The time cost and financial cost. I hope to work on these two things, time cost and financial cost, during this year, and see how we can bring about betterment through better project management processes and better DPRs. This is the, this is the way I look at it.
Over to Mr. Ajitabh Sharma. Sir, my second and final question this time will be in the Jal Mission. Just want to understand, what do you think are the challenges in the water sector and how should be the reform pathway? If you can share your insights.
In a decade or two, the manner in which the urbanization is increasing at a rapid rate and the population is increasing, and particularly the Indian urban cities, there is a very, very grave limitation of the existing water supply network, and the infrastructure is aging. There are some of the pipelines in the old cities like Mumbai and the old part of Jaipur city or maybe Delhi, that the water supply network is as old as 60 and 70 years at some of the locations. Okay. The unfortunate part is that we cannot see the water supply distribution network. It is buried. Other part of infrastructure, say like roads we had been talking about, the energy, the distribution lines, the transmission towers, we see very easily. It is very visible to our naked eyes. But the buried infrastructure in the water sector is not visible. And it is causing a very great and grave damage, and it is leading to very high inefficiencies. Maybe what we call as non-revenue water, that is the NR water. So the losses in some of the urban cities in the country are as high as 50 to 55%. That is the quantum of water which we lose. So upgradation of the aging infrastructure, expansion of the water supply network. Unfortunately, what happens is that we end up in extending the existing network, and the new areas, particularly the poorer sections of the societies where they live, like in Kachi Bastis or not so planned out colonies in the urban areas, because the urban sprawl is happening in all directions and in on manner. It becomes very difficult for the water utilities or the water related department to carry on their network to the entirely new locations. So that is another big challenge. And the solution lies, I would straight away come to the solution. The solution lies, as per my understanding, is that because water is a finite, non-renewable resource, it is limited, available in a limited quantity. Water cannot be created or destroyed both ways. And water is there on earth before the origin of life. Because of water only the life got originated. So the origin or creation of water is related to the Big Bang, what we say in a light humor. So it cannot be created, it cannot be destroyed. There is a finite quantum of water which is available to us. But what is happening is that we are dirtying this water. And ultimately, this polluted water again enters into the natural water stream and comes back to us. So the best solution is to use the water which we have already used. So that is the treat the water. And you will be surprised to know that in any urban area, 80% of the water which we consume is returned as again to the same natural cycle. It is called return flow. So 80% of the water is non-consumptive use of water. So even part of this 80% of return flow we can use in the urban areas. I don't think we need any further new water resources or surface water resources or big mega projects or dams or canals. They are not needed. So if our focus lies on treatment of water and reuse and not treatment up to the limit of the potable use of water, the new concept which has come up and is being practiced in the Western world is like fit for purpose. So you capture the used water and treat it maybe for potable use or maybe for recharging of groundwater, maybe for peri-urban agriculture issues for growing of vegetables or fruits, or maybe for like as a makeup water for the other industrial uses. One is that. Second is like the conservation and efficiency measures which we can use. Because water saved by conservation and efficiency measures is the water produced at zero cost, like same in the energy sector. Because no additional investment both in repair, maintenance and investment in infrastructure is needed.
Thank you very much, sir. Over to Mr. Naveen Kumar. Sir, we heard your ambitious plans on the ground. Any challenges that you are facing and your top priorities for the current financial year, sir?
One of the challenges which we face is in the scheduled areas where the tribal community is living. These were erstwhile tribal areas where the access was not there. Now we are trying to build roads there. But I talked about 5 kind of infrastructure which we are trying to put at village level. So one of the challenges we have is to fetch the contractor who would do this work, because this needs a specialized kind of knowledge or something. So we are also trying tribal training tribal community to learn this one. Another is the tribal nurseries also. The horticulture thing is one of the things which we can actually grow in a bigger way. And the most important thing is when I say tracking the services and also tracking the works in the field, the connectivity is an issue. So we're also working with Google and TIFR here to put up a balloon and FSOC technologies to see whether we are able to connect different. We have test driven one such FSOC facility in East Godavari, where a telemedicine facility is put up in the rural areas using the FSOC connection. And also we have put an Hyderabad hospital into that telemedicine facility. So these are initiatives, because personally I look for IT initiatives which could change it, because I always believe that putting a small IT infrastructure would change the way we operate. So that's the challenge I look at. So let's see how it goes. Thank you.
Yeah, over to Mr. Mayank Chaturvedi. See, the basic problem for the industry infrastructure growth is how to reduce the time, efficiency increase, cost reduction. We all strongly believe that technology is meant for that. Just want to understand from you India's challenges. Can HP address them?
I would have wanted to answer this question in two parts, but because of the paucity of time, I'll take only one of it, or I'll rather answer only one of it. The second part, which I'm not answering, is basically the challenges what we have faced in the last recent project, what we have executed, and how we have overcome those challenges to achieve the outcomes. I'm not touching that because there are many of them. I think I would want to kind of see, tell you what are the challenges we see in government using the latest technologies. I'll just give you examples. The procurement process needs the RFP to be on a level playing field. The specifications in any of the government RFPs, what we see, need to be such that the participation of bidders is kind of maximized. In the process of making such specifications, some technologies get removed just because they're not available possibly with every probable bidders. While we respect the procurement process, but removing some of those important and relevant technologies impacts the end objective of having an efficient IT ecosystem. Leveraging the current technologies to achieve state-of-the-art ecosystem, it's fast changing, and we see a lot of advancements in the existing technologies, right? Every month, every day, every week, we will see some of the other app coming up, some of the other advancements happening in the ecosystem, IT ecosystem, I mean. So it becomes extremely important that if government has procured certain things 2 months back, there's no faster mechanism with government to procure these technologies and use them to make their ecosystem faster and more efficient. The answer to these challenges possibly lies in evolving a partnership model. The partnership model on having everything as a service. HP today has an evolved partnership model to cater to these challenges. We call it HP GreenLake, and what it does, I'll just briefly explain. And HP GreenLake helps bring the cloud experience along with the partnership model on everything as a service execution. In this offering, the IT will be managed by HP, and we will be delivering as a service, everything as a service to the government. With this model, not only can you leverage the current and the right technology for your IT, but also keep it updated with the advancements happening in IT from time to time. And in this model, HP continuously analyzes your IT requirement and accordingly augments the IT resources and technologies to meet the demand, but whenever and whatever they come. And as I said, this model has all the right ingredients of cloud like self-service portal. You have metering tools. You have to charge back or a show back. You have buffer capacities to handle the occasional spikes, and most importantly, the infra is there in your own data center, which reduces the security and the bandwidth hassles. Another incidental benefit government will get is that this model will significantly free up the capital and boost the operational efficiency, so that you can actually focus on some of the other important areas which everybody has spoken about. So I guess this is the perspective which we thought we are facing the challenges, but in the overall, if you can evolve a partnership model, I guess this will definitely help and address a lot of these challenges.
Mr. Sanjay Bhutani, in your view, how significant is the alignment of technology and government vision with the infrastructure sector in order to boost the economy? 1. 2 is your top priorities for the current financial year.
There are industries which are going to contribute. Railways is one, road transport is one, civil is one, and agriculture is another one, healthcare is another one. So these kind of the core infrastructure sector which are going to drive this growth. And technology is something which is driving all this. And all the stakeholders, government, enterprise, citizen of India, with a single platform through a data-driven approach, it is going to help us to get enhanced, to have more productivity and efficiency. When it becomes a user experience kind of things, infrastructure sitting close to end user is going to help a lot. And circular effect of everything, wherein citizens are going to use more and more public infrastructure with an efficient way. I think this is another way which will help us to grow. And sustain and robust economy is dependent on a technology. If technology plays a key role, that's the biggest driver. Earlier, what used to happen a couple of years back, technology is seen as one of the support function. Technology has become a business enabler now. That decides, technology function decides how business growth can be done. Likewise, from a government perspective, technology itself is driving the aim of reaching $1 trillion by 2025. So those initiatives, government initiatives, enterprise initiatives, and the kind of newer ways of think what we are adopting while pandemic is around, I think people have acknowledged in terms of having the robust in technical and IT infrastructure, and we can become more and more efficient. And there are many global things which have been implemented across many countries that we are adopting very, very fast. And along with that, India itself is becoming self-resilient in terms of having own experience, creating own use cases which help us to replicate in many verticals. So I'm very, very sure that alignment with the technology infrastructure sector is going to boost economy big time.
Mr. Sanjay Bhutani, thank you very much. With this, I conclude the panel discussion, the building resilient infrastructure and fostering innovation for transforming India. On behalf of ET Government, Economic Times, I sincerely thank you all our senior administrators and experts, industry leaders for joining the panel discussion and sharing the valuable insights with us. Thank you very much, sir.